Good morning. It's Mrs. Owens from Sequoyah Elementary. It's good to see you again. This will be our very last opportunity to come into your homes and do a little mini lesson, and it's been a pleasure each week to come into it. This week, I'm going to talk to you about something that's very dear to me. If you'll look at the screen, you'll notice that there are a couple of cows out grazing on a field. This is one of my very favorite things. And you might say, that's weird, Mrs. Owens. A cow is your favorite thing? Well, let me give you a little bit of background. I was raised on a cattle ranch all my life. That was my dad's passion. His dream was, as a young man, was to own his own cattle ranch. And he started small. He first bought land around us. Then he began to build fences. And then he bought a small herd. And it has grown through the years to a nice-sized little cattle ranch, and that's actually where I live. So I have been around cows all my life. The story that I'm going to share with you today has to do with someone who is very fond of cows. But the story is so incredibly powerful. It is a story that will teach lessons to both children and adults and teachers. And I can't wait to share it with you. Before we get started, though, let me tell you about the ELA concept that we're going to talk about. If you watched Mrs. Woodson, that was on just before me, she talked about nonfiction. And funny, it's kind of fun when we piggyback off of each other. I think that's neat. She talked about nonfiction. She read about the earthworm. Well, nonfiction writing is based on real events, topics, and people. And this kind of writing gives facts. I have one of those books. I have a nonfiction book on cows. And if I were to read this book to you, you would just see that it just has tons of facts, statements about cows. Mrs. Woodson showed you how it has an index and it has a glossary, and that's how they're put together. But there's not just one kind of nonfiction genre. The story that I'm going to share with you today has a different nonfiction genre, and that is this one. We're going to talk today about literary nonfiction. Now, the difference between literary nonfiction and fiction and nonfiction is this. Literary nonfiction has the facts, but it reads like a story or a poem. The purpose that the author wrote the book for was to entertain you. So while we go through this book, it's going to be a book to entertain, but also teach. That's what makes it kind of unique and special. Prior to this week, I taught a lot of nonfiction or fiction pieces. We did Nerdy Birdie the first week, and then the second week we did Iggy Peck Architect, and we made sticky structures, and then last week we did The Legend of Rock, Paper, Scissors. So it's kind of fun to go to a different style of book, and that's why I chose this one. The title of my book this week is The Girl Who Thought in Pictures, the story of Dr. Temple Grandin. Now, in a literary nonfiction book, one of the things that we'll have to do a little differently is this. We're going to have to read closely and extract the facts. In other words, it's not just listed. The facts are not just listed. We have to pull the facts out of that in a literary nonfiction text. And that's what we'll do as we go through the story. Get ready, because this book's going to rock your world. It did mine. The Girl Who Thought in Pictures. Oh, you know how I love to look at all the parts of a new book? I bought this one too. Look at the cows. Isn't that cool? Again, favorite thing. All right, the writer of the book. Maybe I should get my glasses so I can see a little more clearly. The author of the book is Julia Finley Mosca. I'm going to move a little closer so you can see my pictures. It was illustrated by a man named Daniel Riley, The Girl Who Thought in Pictures. Now remember, this is a true story. Look at that. This is Dr. Temple Grandin. I want you to look at how she's dressed. That's part of this story. Look how she's sitting out in the field with a cow. And it starts like this. If you've ever felt different, if you've ever been low, if you don't quite fit in, there's a name you should know. Temple Grandin's that name. In her tale, you'll find glory. So get ready, get set for this cowgirl's true story. So they call her a cowgirl. She's got this traditional Western shirt on and her jeans, and she's sitting out there with a herd of cattle. In the city of Boston, one hot summer day, a sweet baby was born. It was Temple. Hooray! Look how cute she was as a baby. Unique from the start, an unusual girl, she loved spinning in circles and watching things twirl. Now, right off the bat, we get an idea or a little bit of insight into her as a baby. Said that she was unique from the start. Do you remember what that means? It means different, doesn't it? It means different. And it said that she loved spinning in circles. That's unusual, isn't it? But she also liked to watch things spin and tops. She was looking at that top and watching it go around and around. But some things she hated. Look at her here. Like certain loud sounds, they bothered her. Or bright, crowded places, large cities and towns. She didn't like that. Frilly dresses with tags made her itch, pull, and tug. Something else that she hated? A big, squeezy hug. Now think about that. We're talking about a baby. We're talking about a baby or a toddler. She doesn't like loud noises. She doesn't like itchy clothing. And she doesn't want to be touched or hugged. That's different, isn't it? Would that be unique? I think so. Look at her here. Can you tell by looking at the illustration what she's doing? She doesn't look very happy, does she? The writer says, a shy loner, this Temple. But when she got mad, when her feelings of stress and frustration got bad, quite a tantrum she'd throw. Kick, holler, bang, shriek. Yet still by age 3, not one word did she speak. Now think about that. 3 years old and not talking. And she had all of these things that her mom noticed that seemed different about her. So Mom, if you can see right there, it says doctor. Mom takes her to the doctor. They do some tests, and then this is what they tell her. She'll never be normal, was what some did say. Her brain, it's not quite right. You must send her away. Away? Not my Temple, her mother proclaimed. We will figure this out. You should all be ashamed. Well, her mother was not going to take that kind of news. She didn't want to send her daughter away. They had misdiagnosed Temple. Then little by little, though sometimes she balked, special teachers helped Temple. And one day, she talked. And that thing with her brain, it was autism. See? She was different, not less. They all finally agreed. Now, that is the line from the poem that I want you to take into your heart and hang on to it. I want you to say that. Different, not less. Say it again. Different, not less. Guys, that's so important because we're all different. We all have unique qualities about us. Yes, Temple's uniqueness stood out, but she wasn't less. She was just different. Now, as we move across, it says like most kids her age, she loved ice cream and art, like most kids. But the way Temple thought, That's what set her apart. If something was mentioned, for instance, a fly, in her mind, she'd see dozens of photos buzz by. And look at the illustrator. Somebody said fly, and in her mind, it pops up all of these pictures. Sometimes it was just the magnified wing of the fly, and sometimes it was a different kind. I've done a lot of reading about her this week, and she describes it like if you were to Google an image and you put in an image, let's say you put in horse, and you pull it up on Google and you get all these hundreds of images. That's exactly what she sees in her mind every time somebody says something. That's different. When the time came for school, let's just say that was hard. Kids taunted and chased her all over the yard. They picked on poor Temple, how crazy it drove her. They teased her for saying things over and over and over and over and over. This page really made me sad as a teacher because I looked at the illustrations and see all these pointing fingers. These were the students in that class. And they were yelling, "Look at her." And then somebody even threw a wadded paper wad over at her. And there she is. And it sounds like she's repeating herself a lot. Made me sad. Until finally, she snapped. You know what they mean by that? She got really mad. Now remember in the earlier pages how she threw tantrums and such? She's older now, but she could only take so much. Yes, she did. She lost her cool, threw a book at a kid, and she was kicked out of school. No one really got Temple, but well, then again, the truth of it was, Temple didn't get them. She didn't understand them. "You need time away," said her mom. "That's what's best. You'll go visit your aunt on a ranch way out west." She had an aunt that lived on a ranch in Arizona. Temple was 14 when this happened, when she got kicked out of the regular school, and she went to live that summer with her aunt in Arizona. But it was a huge turning point in Temple's life. A lot of things changed for Temple once she spent that summer on the ranch. And that's where Temple became very much interested in animals. Because guess what? Fitting in on a farm, that was less stress, since the pigs didn't care if her hair was a mess. Remember, she didn't like clothes touching. She didn't like things. She didn't like to take baths and things like that. But, the pigs didn't really care. Quite a sweet spot she had for the cows in their herds, such big, gentle beasts who knew nothing of words. As she watched her new friends, a thought popped in her head. These cows think like me, in pictures instead. And you can see how the illustrator shows the cow. And then here's Temple, and this is her thinking in pictures. What she did was she just stood at the farm and she just watched for hours. She watched the animals. She watched their mannerisms. She watched the family work the cows, move them from one place to another. She saw things that she had never seen before, and she was totally intrigued by all of this. Now, the summer came to an end, and it was time to go back to school, and she changed schools that year. At a new school that fall, Temple found more support and a teacher who taught her, "You'll never fall short." I'm so thankful for that teacher that saw her differences and realized that she was something special. When you find what you're good at, like science, you'll soar. And that teacher was right. He had opened a door. He had worked for NASA before becoming a teacher. And so he had a science mind, and he realized early on that she was very unique. So she built a machine like she'd seen on some farms. an invention that hugged her with boards and not arms. It worked. She'd done it. From memory, it's true. And just like the cows, it made Temple calm too. Now, this is what she saw on the farm in Arizona that summer. And it's a squeeze chute that you use when you're working cattle. And you can squeeze the bars in, and it calms the cattle down. And that's how you give them vaccinations and things like that. We just did that this weekend. She built one very similar, and it would squeeze her tight, and she would feel calm. She did that when she was a senior, and it said that she was able to build this just from the memories of what she had seen on the ranch that summer. I'm special, she thought, like a bright shooting star. My attention to details could help me go far. And you can just see she's drawing, and she's thinking about the cows. This cow has a teardrop. I don't know if you can see it. It's got a teardrop, and it's mooing. She even figured out why they do that. And she discovered some interesting things about the beef cattle that she dealt with. Here's the farmer trying to move them. Here he is trying to bark orders at them, and they're all confused. Through her studies, she learned there were farms not so kind. I will help them, she said. Some solutions she'd find. And then something cool. Can you guess? Could it be? Off to college she went. A degree? She earned 3. She got her bachelor's degree in psychology, and then she got an animal science degree, master degree, and then she went on to become a doctor in animal science. And the ladies weren't experts on farms at the time. Do you think that stopped Temple? No way. She did fine. She stepped through that door and went forward. No tears. She took on the world. But at times she had fears because some things were scary, like people she'd meet who'd ignore her ideas and, well, wouldn't be sweet. She didn't stop. She had perseverance, but she never gave up. Learned her stuff through and through, like why cattle will circle and what makes them moo. And look, she's writing. Look at her shirt. So she's got that same kind of cowboy shirt on. Now, if you look over here, she's drawing and designing. To build better farms was her goal. She would do it. Be kind to our creatures. They have feelings. She knew it. And here she's designing. And here, remember, she learned that they walk in circles. And so here she's designing a trail, set of cattle pens, and the cows are going to make that circle. And she said they'll do it with ease. And slowly but surely, she changed many minds until farm after farm built her awesome designs. Look at this pen. Now, if you're at all familiar with cattle, or if you've ever walked out in a pasture where cattle have been for any length of time, you'll notice that there are these little pathways in a pasture where cows are, and they're maybe about a foot wide, and there's no grass there. There'll be grass all the way around, but they will meander like this through the pasture. They're never straight. If you walk down, I used to walk down and follow them because you didn't get the grass all over you when you did that. And she figured that out. Word spread about Temple. Her feet's not so small. Temple Grandin? She's grand. She's the grandest of all. I want you to notice down here, there's a book. And on that book, it says, Livestock Handling and Transport by Temple Grandin. She wrote a book, friends. This little girl that didn't talk, she wrote a book. Now, for these things and more, she's won honors and prizes. And a movie was made. But the biggest surprise is that girl with the future that couldn't be Bleeker. Yes, the once silent girl. She's now a big speaker. She goes around the world talking and giving speeches. Look how the airplanes are taking her all across the country. Today, she spreads hope with her stories and speeches from New York to Sydney to Rome. Temple teaches. Each person is special. So unique are our minds. This world needs your ideas. It takes brains of all kinds. There she is. There's her cowgirl shirt. She also wears a scarf. If you see her, almost all the pictures, she has that on. So here's the lesson. Feeling odd or different, being different might just be what makes you so neat. Don't let doubt hold you back, not for 1 minute more. Stand tall and like Temple, march right through that door. Gosh, have you ever felt different? Have you ever been offbeat? Remember that phrase? What did I say? She was different, not less. Now, I'm going to get really close so you can see that. That's a picture. It's an actual picture of Dr. Temple Grandin around a herd of cattle, and she wrote you a letter. And she said, "Dear reader, as a child, I was really glad that my mother always encouraged my ability in art. I encourage you to find something you are good at and work on developing it. If you are interested in becoming a scientist like me, find cool new ways to look at things, such as microscopes and telescopes. Explore nature. Think up your own hands-on science experiments. Keep learning, especially from your mistakes. Temple Grandin." Now, I'm going to show you something else in the book in just a minute, but remember, we said we had to extract the facts, right? So, let's take a look. What made Dr. Grandin's way of thinking special? What was it that she did that was different than everyone else? The girl who thought in pictures. You bet. That's a fact right out of the book, that she was a visual thinker. And that's what we found out. That's what made her so different. Okay, here's another one. Why did Dr. Temple Grandin have a strong connection to cows? Was it like me, raised on a ranch and done that all your life? No. She found out that they thought like she did. They thought in their heads, not with words, but in pictures. That's what made that connection. How about this? Why is Temple Grandin's work so important to the farming industry? You might think, what's the big deal? She was able to make huge changes in the way that feedlots and slaughterhouses and different things in the beef cattle industry, the way that the cows were handled, made a huge impact on the product that they were able to produce because of the way that she treated the animals. She said they needed to be treated with respect, just like we did, and that's exactly what she did. Now, in the back of this book, they have done a really cool thing. They have made a timeline of her life. This is something that I would ask you to consider doing. This is the timeline. You'll see them in lots of history books and things like that. But notice this gray band across the page. That's the line, and this is Temple Grandin's life from when she was born until now. Here she was born in 1947. She was born on my grandmother's birthday, August the 29th. And she was born in Boston, Massachusetts. And then this is when she went to the doctor, and the doctor misdiagnosed her. They thought she had brain damage. But it wasn't until about a year later that they figured out, no, that wasn't it at all. She had autism. In 1951 is when she started to talk. She was 4 years old then. At 14 is when she went to spend the summer with her aunt, and then it just continues to go on down her life. Here's her senior year when she built the squeeze machine. Here's when she got her degrees. Here's when she wrote her book. Here's when she her life was made into a movie. Now that's on Amazon Prime if you guys have that. I rewatched it because I really liked it. But in 2010 was the movie. And this is a picture of her now. She lives in Fort Collins, Colorado. She's a professor and she does all that speaking. Now, I want to show you something that I created. Not sure how well you can see it, but something that you can do with popsicle sticks. This is my corral. And I tried to use what Temple used as my guidelines. I'm going to lift it up. I'm afraid my cow might fall. But if you'll notice, she learned that they needed to go through closed pens where they couldn't see through because they were easily distracted and frightened. And so I made my pen so that when they got to this part, they wouldn't be distracted by anything outside. And then notice how it curves. That's what she also found out, that they like to walk in circles, and they would come and do that easier. And then I'm just going to lay it down. But here's my squeeze, my hug machine. This is my squeeze chute right down there at the end. Popsicle sticks, friends. What can you create with popsicle sticks? Now, really quick, these are examples. These are our working pens at our ranch. You can see the curvature of the round tub and the solid walls and then the squeeze chute. But as we take it further, guys, do a timeline or possibly build yourself a set of corrals and a squeeze machine. And I want to leave you with this. Different, not less. If you're the orange, if you ever feel like the orange in a bunch of apples, celebrate it because you're different, not less. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Have a great summer vacation, and I'm anxious to see you in August.